everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday and the patch notes for patch 9.7 have been posted, which means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, we'll be going through the biggest changes in this week's patch and letting you guys know what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks. 9.7 is another very small patch mostly aimed at dealing with the biggest bullies currently in the game, namely Kayle, Urgot, and Sylas. As you might expect, this is a smaller patch, right? I've said specifically mid-season is going to be a time of very low volatility, a time of very low change, because players enjoy it when the game isn't hugely changing every couple of months. So this is going to be a smaller patch. Hopefully it does a lot to sort of alleviate the casual player frustrations and tone some things down for professional play. Let's go ahead and jump right into things, starting with Kayle, which this is generally going to be a nerf to her early game and making her late game a lot more item dependent as opposed to just level dependent. Currently, it's literally get Kayle to level 16 and she'll carry, guaranteed. Now it's a lot less of that. You can hit level 16 and not just immediately kill people. So the base stat is really just to make her squishier in lane. The mana cost increase on Radiant Blast means that it's going to take her a lot more mana to wave clear, and her mana pool is already kind of bad in the first place. So this is a more substantial nerf than you might expect on paper, because if you are first maxing it to get the wave clear, well, you're gonna yourself a lot faster than you would normally. Celestial Blessings, it's getting a very small hit, but you already didn't max this until last in the first place, so it's not that big of a deal. If you're trying to play a more defensive Kayle build, it is going to hurt you because you're not going to get as much movement speed out of it. It costs more mana to use in lane, but let's be real, you weren't really using it in lane for the heal, you're using it for the movement speed bonus, so this doesn't mean that much to Kayle. Finally, Starfire Spellblade, it now has 1% per 100 AP scaling, so it does mean that Kayle is going to want a lot more ability power in order for this ability to do the same amount of damage that it did previously. Thing is, Kayle doesn't really build that much AP. She's more about on hit. So this is just generally going to be a net nerf unless your build is really weird and you're throwing in a death cap or what have you. So overall, this is going to be a nerf to Kayle. She is going to be a lot more item dependent, but that's fine because I think that currently she is in quite a good spot. So I think a bit of a nerf is what is required for the Justicar. Moving on to Urgot, he's very, very good after the changes, so Ryder pulling back on some of the buffs he received in the last patch. Echoing Flame's damage of percent max HP is down by 2% at level 13, which is fine, because remember, there is still no damage fall off on enemies who take multiple shotguns within a few seconds of each other. So he'll still chunk people out if he can get multiple shotguns, but it does mean that the initial shotgun blast isn't going to do quite so much damage as it used to. Disdain is going up in cooldown at level 1, and it scales down with rank, which is a good nerf because you usually max this last in the first place. If you're jungle Urgot, which is sort of a thing that came up, you were maxing this second, so it isn't going to be as much of a nerf to jungle Urgot, but it is still going to hurt him a little bit. And the mana cost going up, of course, is the same kind of deal. It's just going to be a nerf to the max second Urgot builds. Finally, Fear Beyond Death's damage back down to what it was before the buffs. The extra 25 really made a difference because this is the ability that if it lands means he can execute you. So the fact that it did 300, almost 400 damage by itself was kind of silly. So it's good that they're pulling back on that. Urgot should still be playable, but he's definitely not going to be as strong as he used to be. Most of these buffs don't matter that much, except the Mundo buff is nuts. This guy is actually going to be a huge pub stomper. 30% of the target's current health per cleaver. So you land a cleaver, it helps you land the second cleaver, that's 30%, that's 30%, next cleaver, 30%. That is absolutely huge, and there's effectively no cost to it either. So that's going to make Mundo a monster. And then the 200 damage, 200 maximum bonus AD on Masochism at max rank. Again, I think Mundo is just going to be an absolute pub stomping nightmare. I don't think he's going to be like a pro play monster or anything, but I think that absolutely in casual play, he's going to be nuts. So if you play Mundo, you're very happy about these changes. If you don't play Mundo, you should be watching out for this guy because he's going to be pretty good. Garen is getting a couple of changes here that do actually increase his strength. He gets more resistances per last hit than before, and he still stacks up to a slightly higher amount. So it'll take you the same number of minions to get fully stacked, but you get more resistances per stack, and you have a higher cap per stack. The W cooldown is also lowered. Now, it was a last max anyway, so it doesn't mean that big of a deal, but down to 15 seconds base cooldown is huge, because that means Garen's going to have a lot more uptime on Courage. However, the duration is overall reduced, so it's only a 5-second duration from 6. That's not that big of a nerf in exchange for what he's getting, so that's going to make Garen significantly tankier, especially in late game team fights, where you can run in, you can soak aggro with your W on, you can walk out, regenerate a little bit with Perseverance, get your W cooldown up faster, and then run back into the enemy team with your W available. I think it's going to be pretty crazy for Garen, really helping his durability. It doesn't help you very much if you are a lethality Garen builder, but I've always figured that's his weakest build, so this is actually quite nice buff to Garen. The Leona buff doesn't look that big on paper, but this is at least it's a second max for me on the Zenith Blade, so down to 6 seconds, and then you start factoring all the CDR you get from support itemization. Leona's going to have a ton of crowd control with just this ability in the later stages of the game, so that's going to be really, really good buff to Leona. She's definitely going to be a little bit stronger. Lissandra's got an Ice Shard nerf. It doesn't matter, because the biggest reason she's broken is still because of Aftershock. Just because it gives her so many resistances, she just presses W in lane and you can't kill her, and she kind of walks out or stalls long enough to get her E off cooldown and teleport to it, or what have you. So I think this is going to be a case of everything about Lissandra gets nerfed, because Riot don't want to touch Aftershock. They finally do nerf Aftershock, and then Lissandra is going to be gutted because she had champion nerfs, and then her keystone that she was now reliant upon got nerfed. But that's neither here nor there. For the moment, Lissandra's basically got to be just as good as she was previously. Morgana's getting just a little bit of power trimmed off. Her health regen growth is slightly lower, and then the W damage is also slightly lowered as well. So it'll trim off mostly for mid lane Morgana. She shouldn't be nearly as strong as she was previously. It'll nerf support Morgana a little bit, but if you're primarily playing her support, you shouldn't have to worry about it in general. Pyke's getting a little bit of a buff here. Bone Skewer's going down in cooldown, only at early ranks, so it's not that big of a deal, because that's usually the Pyke first mask in the first place, I believe. Please tell me if I'm wrong about that. But then the Phantom Undertow, that's now up to a 1.25 second stun from nothing, and it still has the lethality scaling. So that's actually going to be pretty crazy. That's the biggest Pyke buff here, so he should feel a lot better in this patch. Finally, onto the biggest changes, Sylas is really frustrating to play against at almost all levels of play. So Riot are really trying to open up windows of opportunity to play around him. The biggest change here is the E nerf. The cooldown going up 6 seconds at rank 1 is huge, because that means if Sylas is going to be maxing E for the cooldown, that he's sacrificing damage that he might have been getting by maxing either Kingslayer or Chain Lash first. But at the same time, if he doesn't max it, that is a ginormous cooldown that he's not getting very much at all in team fights. You're essentially going to have one cast of that during fights, and really that's going to be it until you really start hitting later stages of the game. So that's a big nerf to Sylas. I think that really is going to do a lot to make him less frustrating to play against, because if he does mess up the Abscond Abduct combo, well, he's down a way to get on top of you for the next, essentially that entire wave. He's going to get one cast per wave, essentially. So if he misses it, that's a huge disadvantage to Sylas for the rest of the laning phase. Health regen down as well means that if you can get damage on him, it'll stick better. Finally, the W is getting even more nerfs and now to the damage, which is a huge nerf. This is going down by 45 points of empowered damage at max rank and 30 points of damage without it being empowered. So in general, it's going to do so much less damage. Remember, this isn't affecting the heal at all. He's still going to heal for a huge amount because the heal is independent of damage, but it's still a big nerf. It means in general, he's just going to be doing less damage with his point and click. If you were first maxing this, I feel like you really can't afford to anymore. It just doesn't give you enough damage. So I feel like, especially mid Sylas, you're going to want to be maxing Chain Lash for the wave clear and then focus on this. But even with the Abscond Abduct nerfs and the health regen nerfs, he's just going to be weaker than he was before. I think he's still playable because there's still the dream of stealing 5 ultimates in a team fight and winning it. But he's definitely not a huge lane bully, or at least as big of a lane bully as he is currently. Moving on to items, Enchantment Cinderhulk is now doing 300% bonus magic damage to minions and monsters, so you're a lot closer to clearing as fast as other junglers do the second you get this enchantment. This is really big if you're, because I think it just shifts the meta more and more towards crit scaling marksmen and then just like a bunch of tanks. And this allows you to run tanks in the jungle even more effectively. Sejuani hasn't really even gone anywhere, so I think that this is just going to make her and all the other tank junglers even better. I think you're just going to take Cinderhulk if you can, because your wave clear is going to be insane, and it was already a pretty good item, so that's going to be a huge buff to them. Dark Seal is losing some of its base AP, and it doesn't sell back for as much, so if you're trying to stack Dark Seals, or if you're trying to really go greedy and it doesn't pay off, you're going to be punished doubly so with a Dark Seal. So I do actually quite like that change. It's a lot more going to be Feast or Famine. You need those Glory Stacks in order to get AP, and you need the Glory Stacks in order to make the item a worthwhile purchase, because it's not going to sell back for anything if you say this isn't working out. So I do quite like that change. There's also a new Wit's End. Wit's End has been updated. Essentially, it's now Works passive. You deal on-hit damage, and you heal for the amount of on-hit damage dealt by Wit's End. It's 33% effective for ranged. So, in general, I still don't know where you're really going to buy this, right? Saying it'll be better for champions that would consider Maw, but they can't because they're already going to get Sterk's Gauge. It's better for attack speed bruisers, which I can certainly see. I still don't really know who is actually going to buy this. It still feels like it's mostly an item that you're going to build when you are an attack speed bruiser and they're very, very heavy AP, like running 3 to 4 ability power champions. But I still really don't know a situation in which I would want to buy this. I could be totally wrong. It's hard for me to parse this one. So let me know what you guys are thinking and who's going to build this outside of the normal few that occasionally put it up, because I don't see this item getting that much use. Finally, all of these runes here were actually adjusted a little bit. Eyeball Collection now grants just 1 per champion takedown. And it, I believe it still grants, no, it doesn't grant the ward kill anymore. So it's literally just champion takedowns is what you're looking for. But it gives more adaptive force per stack. And once you complete it, you get 10 adaptive force. Everything else is going to give the same amount, but because Ghost Pour is no longer a choice, it's just if your wards expire. Note they can't be cleared. They have to expire. They leave a Ghost Pour behind that gives you vision until someone scares the Pour away. So I think that's generally going to be worse than it was previously. Zombie Ward, I think, is going to be the best of the 3 options now, because it's going to be easier to stack up because you just clear wards, and it gives you still the Zombie Ward bonus, which is huge, especially in professional play. So I feel like Zombie Ward is just going to be the next best thing. Eyeball Collection, I really don't think is going to be that good anymore. I don't see anyone else really running it, but Ghost Pour, I think, is the biggest loser with this kind of rework. So kind of sad to see, but it's what's going to happen. Cut Down got a little bit more of a buff, still worthless. I can see a scenario where maybe, especially with the Cinderhulk buffs, if teams start running 2 to 3 big tanky members, where Cut Down could be good on a marksman who really wants to have some tank busting, but in general, lacking the threat that Coup de Grace gives you means that Cut Down is still just always going to be overlooked. Demolish is getting a bit of a buff. It's still not enough for you to merit taking it if you didn't already. Like, if you're Yorick and you're already going to be split pushing and wanting Demolish, you're still going to take it, and it's just going to be better on you. But if you weren't already taking it, if you're playing someone like Darius, let's say, it doesn't matter. You're not going to grab this just because it was slightly buffed. So I think that's still generally not a great thing. And then finally, there were a couple of ARAM changes that are in testing. So definitely, if you guys play a lot of ARAMs and you have thoughts about these experiments, let Riot know on the official forums, tweet at them, do whatever you can to let them know, because they may or may not keep these changes. So let them know what works for you. First, Butcher's Bridge is back, which is great. Second, there is now a ban phase, so you can actually ban out champions in ARAM. There will be 10 champions, and after bans are set, then random champions get assigned, and anything that was banned doesn't show up in a reroll. So that's really big if you just really are sick of seeing Xerath on ARAM. I think it's the wrong way to go about solving the problem of diversity. I think if you want true diversity in ARAM, make every champion available, regardless of what you have unlocked. That's how you solve that problem, but Riot seems very loath to do that, so I guess this is the next best thing. Prepare to never see certain champions like Xerath on ARAM ever again. Sorry, Xerath players. There are a bit of changes to make it so that games can close out faster. Damage from champions further than 900 units away is reduced by 15%, which is a huge nerf towards champions like Xerath or Lux, who really enjoy throwing their skill shots from all the way downtown and just chunking people out. So that's going to be really good. It does nerf those champions on ARAM, so if you are an ARAM only account, first of all, why? Second of all, your favorite champions will be much worse in this mode. Then they added a new summoner spell in Backtrack, which is replacing Barrier. When you activate it, you get a small shield that's less powerful than Barrier, and then 3 seconds later, you teleport a short distance back towards your fountain. Melees teleport further than range, so that should be good to sort of enable assassin champions like Zed to make a bit of a play in the backline and still not entirely die by trying to go in. And Mariner's Vengeance and Ghostwalkers have been added to the store for ARAM games, and Warmog's Armor got adjusted. These are a couple items that are adjusted and are back in, so that should be a lot of fun to play around with. So again, if you like or dislike any of these changes after playing with them, let Riot know, because they may or may not keep them as a result of our feedback. So love to hear the guys' thoughts on that. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Go ahead and let me know which changes you're most excited for down in the comments section below. I know I'm really excited for the Garen changes, but let me know what you guys are looking forward to. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing. I upload every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're looking for Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, linked down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.